Tonight on PM Express, a conversation we've had so many times before the end of 2021 because it affects the very core of our lives. Commercial drivers went on strike to protest the removal of some petroleum levies, all in the bid to ensure that fuel prices are affordable for Ghanaians. We saw a reduction in pump prices by GOIL. Fast forward to January, in the first pricing window, we are already seeing some increments at the pumps, though not significant. But experts say by the time we get to the second pricing window, the impact may be piercing. Let's see how the pricing has been over the period and how it's going to look like if the prices are increased at the pumps. And there you have it. Fuel prices have gone up by almost 3%, 2.8% at the pumps. Now, let's look at the OMCs who have increased their prices so far. And there's a comparison from 17th December all up to 3rd January. So you look at this is petrol and this is diesel for 17th December, and on the 3rd January, this is petrol and diesel. Let's start with total. In December, on 17th December, when there was an increase, total was selling at 6.65%. That is for petrol. For diesel, it was at 6.65%, 6.65 pesos. So petrol at 6.65 pesos, diesel at 6.65 pesos. And that when you come to 3rd January, when the first pricing started and it increased, total has now gone up to 6.80 pesos, and that's for petrol. For diesel, it's up 6.85 pesos. The others, if you look at GOIL, which it was at 6.60, 6.60 pesos on 17th December for petrol, and you look at diesel, which is at 6.60 pesos. Now, fast forward to January, it's at 6.65 pesos. Diesel is also going for the same price, 6.65 pesos. Shell is still the same. It looks like Shell hasn't touched its pricing. It's 6.75 pesos for petrol and 6.75 pesos for diesel. And then you come to Star Oil. Star Oil has 6.39 pesos as at December 17 for their petrol super. And for diesel, you have 6.39 pesos. And in January, it has gone up 6.45 pesos for super and 6.45 pesos for diesel. So this is how it is looking like right now. Now, according to the Institute for Energy Security, the increase is as a result of 1, depreciation of the cedi, and 2, 8.18% increase in price of international benchmark Brent crude, 3.25% increase in the price of gasoline, 2.09% increase in gas oil prices, and then, if you look at the depreciation, 0.5% depreciation of the cedi against the US dollar. Those are the reasons for the increase in prices at the pump. Now, these are identified taxes or levies, if you like, that the Coalition of Private Transport Associations called for some few weeks ago, and they had to even go for strike to make government understand what they were talking about. Government met them. These are the 5 levies they asked government to scrap: Energy Sector Recovery Levy, Sanitation and Pollution Levy, Energy Debt Recovery Levy, Road Fund Levy, and Special Petroleum Levy. These are levies that they say if it is scrapped on petroleum prices, the prices at the pumps will go down. Now, these 5 levies are charged per litre. The Energy Sector Recovery Levy, if you buy 1 litre of petrol or diesel, this is how much you pay on these 5 levies. 20 pesos on Energy Sector Recovery Levy. Sanitation and Pollution Levy, you pay 10 pesos. Energy Debt Recovery Levy, you pay 49 pesos. Road Fund Levy, you pay 48 pesos. And Special Petroleum Levy, 46 pesos. That's how much you pay when you buy a litre of fuel at the pump. Now, what will the scrapping do to cushion people who buy fuel? Now, if these 5 levies are scrapped, on ex-pump prices. Now you see, you would have current pump price, which is 6.80 Ghana cedis, which is from the are scrapped. Talking about fuel prices will decrease. Scrapped off. Like that. Let's look at how it has increased since December all up to January. Energy debt recovery levy has been 49 pesos, road fund levy 48 pesos, energy fund levy 1 peso, 1 peso, price stabilization and recovery levy 14 pesos, sanitation and pollution levy 10 pesos, energy sector recovery levy 20 pesos, special petroleum tax 46 pesos, primary distribution margin 11 pesos, bust margin 9 pesos, fuel marking margin 5 pesos, marketers margin 46.14 pesos, 46 cities 14 pesos, and dealers, retailers, operators margin 3 cities 76 pesos, and there's a total of that over there. The amount you pay as taxes per litre on petrol in Ghana between 2018 to 2022, this is the calculation that we've done for you. In 2018, you paid 1.97, 1 CD 97 pesos in 2018. In 2019, it went up to 2 CDs 39 pesos. In 2020, 2 CDs 4 pesos, and between 2021 2022 you're now paying 2 CD 90 pesos. And this experts say if we enter the second price window, which the first pricing is supposed to end somewhere 15-16 January, and that will make way for the second pricing window. If we get there, that could be more significant and Ghanaians may begin to feel the pinch. I'll introduce to you my guest shortly after this break. Welcome back to PM Express. My guest tonight, Duncan Amwa, is Executive Secretary for the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC. Abbas Ibrahim Imoro, who is also joining the conversation, is spokesperson for the Coalition of Commercial Transport Owners. Mohammed Abdul Kudus is Communications Manager, National Petroleum Authority, and Peter Tepe is a policy analyst. I'm grateful, gentlemen, for your time. Duncan Amwa, thank you so much for coming.
Chiapa,
I think
to you and
Afisa said
be a much change from black to white.
Amen.
You should be celebrating
Amen.
instead of the
Amen.
grief that has. And I do regret not joining in the black, because Elvis was such an amiable character. Anytime you come around, you get to meet him. He's all pleasant.
Definitely.
So our condolences to his family and to the larger family here at Multimedia and the Ghanaian public, his friends, schoolmates, and everybody.
Thank you so much for the words of encouragement. Let's start with how much increment we've had over the period and how that will impact on people who buy fuel, especially as we go into we end the first window and transform into the second window.
Well, Aisha, Afishiapa again, it's not too late. Today is the 5th, right?
Yeah.
I think to start with, based on numbers that we computed, I would like to say Afishiapa to the oil marketing companies, the BDCs, and all other active players within the downstream space. I do think that the OMCs are being very charitable to all of us.
Okay.
If you look at the Forex, the figures that we had computed, you look at international market price movements, and what we are actually recording at the pumps, it looks as though so far Total Petroleum is about the only company that has probably done 15 to 20 pesos. Most of the others in your analysis, as I saw earlier, are doing between 5, 6, 7, 10 pesos. That is to say that they might even go into their margins in order that they don't overburden all of us. But if it was just down to what happens on the international market and what your Forex position is, I'm quite certain that every single one of these players would have had to go up by at least 20 pesos, like Total Petroleum has demonstrated with their agro or diesel prices. Fortunately, what I have seen with gold is 5 pesos. What I saw with Star Petroleum is about 5, 6 pesos. What I think Shell is also doing, I don't know if they have even increased yet. Others are doing 5, 7 pesos, 10 pesos.
Yeah.
It is encouraging that they are not starting off the year with all of us looking to enhance their profits or their margins. They are also mindful of the fact that this is a season for a lot of school fees to be paid, you know. And if you go on social media, people are also crying for their rent monies, you know. All kinds of renewals would need to be done within the first quarter.
Okay.
And so for me, what we are seeing at the market so far, on the market so far, is quite encouraging. And we'll be happy to encourage the OMCs not to lose sight of the fact that we, the people patronizing them, are hard-pressed. And so when even prices would need to scale up, sometimes they find, you know, the human face in order that they don't inconvenience. But the highest so far, 20 pesos, the least 5 pesos. So there's a range.
But would you blame them because government has explained that this is as a result of increase in prices on the international market? I'm sure there are other factors that is like accumulating to make this happen. But would you blame the OMCs if they decide to increase the prices? It's
difficult to blame them.
Yeah.
In fact, if you recall, somewhere in November, when prices had hit the earlier part of November 2021, when international market prices had hit an all-time high, crude was around 85, 87 in some instances. International market price for finished products had inched up to around 800, 850, thereabout. If you look at the association proper, per their numbers, their members should have crossed the 7 Ghana cedi 14. But I didn't see a single OMC do the 7. What they did was 6 cedi 99. You know, it was 1 peso shy to 7.
Okay.
But per the numbers within the industry at the time, most of them should have gone to about 7 cedi 14.
Okay.
I think that they, just like our truck drivers, are oftentimes mindful of their constituents or the customers or the people who patronize them. And so I would be quite disappointed if we set out to rather chastise the oil marketing companies. On other platforms, you hear people say that they are looking for profits. I can say on authority here that based on the numbers down there, if they were looking for full cost recovery, I'm quite certain most of them should now be doing around 6.85, 6.9. But it's only Total Petroleum so far that you probably find around 6.80.
Okay.
The others are giving us probably a New Year present to say that, well, you just came back from a bit of a holiday. We are not going to increase it all. Although it's gone up, we'll do 5 pesos, 10 pesos, and all of that. For us, that is encouraging.
Now, when is the second window expected to come in? And you say that could be very drastic. How drastic?
Well, you see, Aisha, when you have prices surge or go up, there's only one thing that should be done. The market would need to respond. Where the market does not respond correspondingly, know that there's a shave that they are taking on their margins.
Okay.
Now, if international market prices should continue to go up, and I would explain why it will probably have to go up. If it should go up, if the cedi should come under the kind of pressure, if you look at importers and the GRA today, people are in a hurry to clear their goods, they need to pay supplies and all of that. If the cedi come under pressure and it also depreciates, there's only one eventual outcome. Prices will go up again. Now, the first window, they could have done between 20 and 30 pesos. Most of them are doing 5, 6, 7, 10 pesos and all. They are taking a shave. If the second window comes with further increases, it will be difficult to expect that they would absorb all those increases. Mind you, the NPA just, this week, has come out to announce that government has extended the stabilization and recovery levy zeroing for another month. Okay, so that means that somewhere February, stabilization may be coming back, right? Stabilization is 14, 16 pesos. 14 for, I think, diesel, 16 for petrol. If you put just stabilization and recovery back into the price mix, prices have gone up already. If international market price dynamics dictate that you should add 10, 20 pesos, you're already at 34. If there's cedi depreciation, that should add about 2, 3, 5 pesos, you're already at 40. And so that second window, right, will probably be a watershed. It is either we will be lucky, international market prices go down, government sustain the zeroing of the stabilization and recovery levy. So there's no push factor that would need to see us pay more at the pumps. If those factors happen, we probably will get a stay of these prices or some nominal or marginal reductions of these prices. If the reverse is also the case, where the zeroing of the stabilization is taken away because MPA says we are doing one more month, right? If that happens, if international market price should go up again, if the cedi should depreciate, you could be looking at something in the region of 40 pesos. That could be drastic. If you add 40 to what Total already has out there, what Gold has out there, that could be quite harsh. And so we are hoping, and with platforms like yours where the NPA is also represented, some of the things that we need to send across is for them to continue to impress on government to ensure that the stabilization and recovery levy is not done piecemeal the way we are saying it. Don't do it 1 month, 2 months. If you can do for 6 months, just to study the market, at least it gives some comfort to the oil marketing companies that you are not coming back a week later, to demand those monies. If they have that comfort, I'm sure they would also be willing to do their bit as they have done this first window, January, to cushion everybody. But second window will be an interesting one. It will be an interesting one. Let me bring in Mora Abbas.
Last year, your union impressed on government to actually scrap some 5 levies that you said you have identified. And you said that if it is taken off the petroleum prices, it could help cushion you car owners and drivers. Has that happened? Because I remember you had a meeting at the presidency over this.
Good evening to listeners.
Yes, Imoro, you are on. Go ahead.
Okay. Good evening to viewers. And Aisha, baby, how is your new year? How did you spend your new year? Yes. We are disappointed by what is happening today. We least expect this within this January. Yes, we know the nation cannot control the crude oil prices in the world market, but maybe our lenient was a mistake we made to accept something different from what we were asking for. You see, that is a sign of taking the country at heart. We took the country at heart once upon a time, somewhere later part in 2021, we organized a sit-down strike, which almost took the whole nation into, we're holding the whole nation to a standstill. We even later regret seeing some people walking a long distance for drugs, but it wasn't our intention to punish anybody. We have nothing to do apart from coming up with that. See, so we'll plead with the authorities. They should make sure we sit and see how best this problem could be solved. Because we can't continue this way by working, and the fuel prices will be going up all the time, meaning.
Have you had any explanation as to why this is happening from government?
Not at all. Some of us are still, we are under TUC and officially, although, no, not at all. Not at all. We're on holidays. We shall resume on the 11th officially. But we are still working at home. Officially, no.
So thankfully, NPA is on this show. Abdul Kudus is on. I'm grateful for your time, Abdul Kudus. Let me ask you this. Are we going into a new year with the same problems, or has something changed so far?
To my co-panelists, good evening to your cherished and wonderful viewers. I'm not too sure if it is in my place to answer directly to your question. As you may be aware, we are regulators who are supposed to really be a kind of an interface between the consuming public and the suppliers of the product. We basically are supposed to at all times be ensuring that there is a fair pricing that serves the consumers well and serve the public very well as well, and then the suppliers as well. So depending on the dynamics and what plays out, we are supposed to, as I said, be a fair free to the consumer and a fair free to the supplier. And particularly for that reason, I'm not sure I'll be able to guess what certainly will be happening into the future, and as to whether the direct issue of the drivers' union and the release that they sought from government would actually be manifesting once again or not. I would not be able to speak directly to that.
What would it take for the levies to be scrapped?
Obviously, a lot of them takes. They are engineered by government, and you have Parliament as the vehicle for its imposition. And so some of them, for example, the special petroleum tax, if there's going to be a review, there's going to be a scrapping, there's going to be anything that should be done about it, then certainly Parliament would actually be called to work on that. We only come in when the decision is taken, and we are supposed to review the pricing formula. It's when we come in. But we don't actually make a determination on its review. We could have discussion with government, advice on probably a certain degree or percentage of what should be more appropriate that would probably cushion the consumer. But as a test, it remains a discussion behind closed doors that we can have with government. But we do not have a direct relationship on tinkering of it, whether reviewing or scrapping it. But like I said, we are implementers of a final decision that's taken or might be taken, and as and when that is taken, and we are supposed to do something about some of the levies or taxes, MPA would gladly be called upon and will do what is expected of them.
Duncan, let's understand what difference this will make. I'm talking about the 5 levies that Abbas and his group were calling for its scrapping. What difference will it make at the pumps?
So, Aisha, scrapping, I wouldn't know.
Okay.
But managing them, I know.
Okay.
If you scrap, you are probably going to have to need Parliament, like Kudus indicated.
Okay.
But if you need to manage them, in the past, the Finance Ministry gives a certain instruction to the NPA, possibly to go down on some of them.
Okay.
You would find special petroleum tax, which we have persistently indicated is of no use to, all of us at this point, especially when prices are still threatening to go back up to the almost 7 Ghana cedis per litre, when people said times were hard and it should come down, and Goyle and others listened and reduced their prices. So if the stabilization, the special petroleum tax of 46 pesos, Aisha, just do 46 pesos off even the highest currently, you would come to about 6.4. I think that is quite reasonable. Just one of the tax components. Yet you don't get any concrete responses from Finance Ministry. And I do understand why Kudus cannot answer some of the questions.
Yeah.
The real people in there who should be providing Ghanaians explanations, right, or rather prefer to act indifferent. It's as if they have not heard people asking for a management of the taxes. Aisha, we are here discussing first window January. We are here pontificating that 2nd January could be a watershed or Waterloo, it could be anything. The people who manage our taxes, the people who manage the price build-up, they are still quiet. We have sent quite an elaborate, bit to be even included in the 2022 budget, not a line. The drivers have also called for some of these taxes to be looked at. Nothing has been done.
Okay.
And so if we don't change that attitude for 2022, and the strategy from government officials or top-level officials or finance ministry will be the yentie obia. Aisha, from where I sit, I can see a very difficult year panning out. OPEC Plus just concluded a meeting yesterday. One of their agreements is that they are going to pump out additional 400,000 barrels, to what we have. Don't forget, a year or 2 ago, when they decided to cut back, you know how much they cut back? They did 10 million barrels.
Okay.
From, the daily consumption stock of almost 100 million, they took out almost 10 million. And that is why prices were forced to go into the 80s region, right? Now they've observed the pattern that the Omicron variant, right, is not having the kind of effect that we probably thought it would have. And so they know demand will go up this year. So they are willing to throw in 400,000 barrels extra per day. But mind you, that is way below 1 million. They have done 10 million cuts.
Okay.
So they are not expecting prices to drop this year. It will stay around the $75, $80 region. In some instances, it could even go up.
Okay.
If we as a country don't change strategy, if we don't find use for the refinery immediately, if within the short, medium term, we don't find a certain optimization of bust, and we continue to sit and be caught ball watching, Abbas and his people will soon be back on all of us. In fact, I go in sometimes to beg them. Sometimes you just need to beg because you can't do much.
Yeah.
But if we don't change strategy, Aisha, this is earlier part of the year. The world market is showing you it is not going to consider anything. It will go up irrespective. The cedi, you'll probably be able to auction some dollar, but how much can you control right, the demand for the dollar. So if the cedi depreciates, international market price go up, there's only one eventual outcome. BDCs cannot absorb those costs. They would have to pass it on. OMCs cannot absorb. They would have to pass it on. Eventually, the Ghanaian worker, the Ghanaian citizen, who probably doesn't have as much of a disposable income, would now be squeezed. And so this program, such discussions, I would be happy that those taking decisions, if they are in their bedrooms now watching, you would need to change strategy for 2022.
Okay.
If we sit and do the very usual things, I'm afraid, if we sit and we still want to collect special petroleum tax 2022, we'll be leading our people into very difficult space such that what the drivers had to do, resort to, I'm sure most of them didn't like it, to park their vehicles.
Definitely.
But you are pushing people to a point where the only relief option they have is sometimes to say that we won't even work again. So those who need to take the hard decisions, please take them and let the MPA have an easy, regulatory space. If you do these things, Kudus will now have to answer to questions that finance ministry ordinarily will have to, but they won't. They are indifferent.
But is the NPA's hands that tied that it can't really do anything? I'll come back to you, Kudus. Let me bring in Peter Tekwe. Mr. Tekwe, these are the factors accounting for the increase in fuel prices. We're told about depreciation of the cedi. We're told about increase in international benchmark Brent crude. We're told about increase in prices of gasoline, among others. What would you have done if you were government to mitigate the impact?
Thank you very much. And once again, our condolence to multimedia team. Once again, we are still discussing this issue. Some few days ago, or a few weeks ago, when the issue came up and we were asking for government to come out to find a solution to the problem. Unfortunately, government hands were tied, and as a result, they couldn't do much as we are expecting. You mentioned the factors that influence the prices at the pump. You mentioned the world price market, the price at the world market, mentioned depreciation of the currency, and then also I'll bring in the tax component. Prices at the world market and then depreciation, government doesn't have control over that, but government have control over the taxes. And that is where we have been calling for all this while that government needs to do something around this area, because that is where they have the power. Let me give you an example. If you look at the price build-up, the special petroleum tax, for instance, was introduced somewhere in 2014, where the prices of petroleum has gone down in the world market. And looking at government revenue, which will be short, government realized that, okay, let's do something to close the gap. And so this tax was introduced at that time to be able to close the gap between the fall in the world price and then the shortfall in government revenue as well. And from 2014 to now, prices have evolved. Why are we still keeping this tax? And this is 46 pesos, but because the only source of revenue for government, the main source of revenue for government is taxation, it is very difficult when one regime introduces a tax and another regime comes and they say they will take it out. Even when a lot of noise is made about it during its introduction, once they come in, because that is where they generate revenue, it is then difficult for them to say we are scrapping it. But looking at the situation we find ourselves now, government needs to sacrifice at some level. The reason is that anytime this petroleum price increase comes up, it's only when we hear prices are going up at the world market. We are not talking about, government is not doing anything about the taxes that it has introduced. We're talking about depreciation of the currency. All of us go to one pool to be buying dollars from the banks. Bank of Ghana comes and does auction to help to support the increase in demand. But if you look at the demand for the importation of petroleum products, because now TOR is down, it means that we are virtually importing almost everything that we consume as a country. This means that the demand for the foreign currency, or the USD, has also increased. And so once we go to the market to buy dollars above $6 then it means that the BDC or the OMC who is in business will definitely pass the cost to the consumer. If you look at the debt recovery levy, this was also introduced to be able to take care of TOR's debt. We all know that TOR has not been functioning for a long time. Nobody has accounted to us how much has been accrued from the TOR debt, what it has been used for, how much of the TOR debt has been paid out of this tax that has been collected. And TOR is still down. For how long will this tax be there? And it seems like the more tax we pay to recover TOR's debt, the worse the situation of TOR. And so the situation is in the hands of government now to do something. And government can do it by reducing the taxes. 46 pesos for special tax, 49 pesos for TOR debt recovery, for the debt recovery. If government even have it, you know, it will go a long way to support the reduction that we are talking about. Because the consumer who goes to the pumps is only looking at how much fuel goes into his tanks, and most of the time, people are not even able to calculate how much fuel they consume within a certain period. How many of us know even how much goes into our tanks? Okay. And so when prices begin to increase, then it also reduces the impact on the consumer as well.
All right, so Seth Sakre is a policy analyst, and he's made that point there. I'll take a break on PM Express. When I return, we'll be looking at what next, especially from now till the second window. What should happen? And I asked the question earlier on, is the NPA's hands too tight that it cannot loosen up a bit to do something? I'll be finding out what the plan is for us, for the NPA to cushion us. And I'll be coming to you, Kudus, shortly. Stay with me. Back to PM Express, we're talking about the increase in fuel prices at the pumps. It's already begun. We've seen Total increase its prices. It's obvious. Goil has also increased its prices. It's obvious. We've seen Star Oil. It's obvious it's going to happen with the others as the first pricing window goes on. And we're told it will be ending around 15th, 16th of January. And then the second pricing window, that's where I'm scared of, because you say that could be biting. Because right now we are just seeing 22.8 pesos, right? Increment.
It's so not much for
it's not much for the first window. So the second window is what we should be preparing for. Now, Imura Abbas, you've heard from Kudus. He says he cannot do much about it. There must be a directive from the Finance Ministry or from government, so the NPA can also carry on the implementation. What's next for your people, your group who demanded the scrapping of this 5 levies?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I don't want to preempt. We have to, in fact, if this is the way, like Brother Duncan is saying, we are expecting more, we'll get together and see how best we'll forge forward. To be honest with you, most of the drivers enjoyed the 1 hour or 2 hour sit-down strike. We wouldn't want to say we'll revisit that because it wasn't a pleasant thing. What we saw, some people going for medication have to walk for some miles. But well, when West come to West, we'll take any good decision which will move our industry forward. But our advice that those in authority should not take entrenched position. They should see how best we all come together, sit around table and see how best they could consider some of the grievances we put before them. We haven't taken entrenched position. They shouldn't take entrenched position so that we see how best we move other if those in the authorities will keep quiet and watch like their own concern, then I'm afraid we'll make them come up with something good which will move us forward. They shouldn't forget they saw most of the drivers who embarked on the sit-down strike really enjoyed the 1 hour or 2 hour sit-down strike that we went through. We wouldn't want to repeat that. So we'll plead drivers, we'll plead with those in the authority. They should see how best we could strike, even if not all, we should at least be reasonable. We saw that, I would say.
Is there, and just as we've all agreed, the second pricing window is where the problem may be, which will be more biting. What's the plan from NPA to cushion us?
Aisha, thank you very much. I have been listening carefully, and then probably on a lighter note, I'm not too sure I would be envious of the position of the finance minister around this time at all. This is a time that many are expecting a lot of things from the finance ministry in the form of wage increase, in the form of roads and those things. And at the same time, many of us, as the consuming public of fuel, are equally calling on some massaging of some revenue that the finance minister would be expecting from fuel. So it's a tight one, I believe, for the Ministry of Finance. But from NPA, primarily the things that we probably have a certain direct relationship with. If you look at the fuel marking, for example, and you look at the UPPF, for me, there are control measures that ultimately are for the good of the consuming public. Take the UPPF levy, for example. It is supposed to equalize the price of the product, regardless where you are. If it was to be removed, what it means is that the further you are away from the center or the depot, the more you would actually be paying. So if you asked me my honest opinion about this, and this is personal, I don't think that we should be tinkering with it at all. If you look at the fuel marking, it is supposed to ensure that the fuel as it is that is taken from the depot is the same fuel that you are actually buying into your vehicle when you go to the pump. If you were to eliminate that or do anything about that, what it means is that you could actually be compromising with the quality of the product, because some scrupulous persons might want to tamper with the product for their selfish interest. So those things that I've mentioned and are directly related to the control of NPA. And mind you, they are not capriciously determined, because these are things that are basically driven by the exigencies of the market. So if the product cost actually goes up, then we certainly must be looking at adjusting it to be able to accommodate it. And I describe it as control because ultimately they work to the good of the consumer. I'm not too sure I would be desirous of compromising the health of our energy, the health of our vehicles, and then the things that we use our fuel for, just because we want a certain product to be taken out or a certain levy to be taken out. So if there was to be an expectation of what NPA should be doing or could be doing going into the future to arrest a certain anxiety, as you kept repeating, I'm not too sure that I would be able to speak directly to it. Because fuel pricing as it is, and Duncan would agree with me, is so fluid that you sometimes are unable to understand what triggers an upward or a downward reduction. And so we at NPA are usually very measured and would want to take things at a time without necessarily dabbling in this speculation and projection of what the future would actually be like. The think tanks, the people in the research institutions and those things could actually be doing that, but we at MT are careful, and so we try to, as it were, play it as and when it evolves.
Right.
So
Duncan,
if there was a decision about.
All right, so Abdul Kudus makes that point there that they want to be measured. They don't want to jump the gun, and definitely they would need the finance minister to speak before they can act. Between now up to the second pricing window, what should happen, Duncan Amoah?
You see, the strategy should be to mitigate prices for Ghanaians. I always ask, do we want to do something about fuel prices? If the answer is yes, there's a way.
Okay.
If the answer is no, the excuses will continue unabated.
Okay.
You would call one functionary of government, and you will get one excuse. The next person will come and make another excuse. Meanwhile, the devil is in the detail. Petrol pricing is not something rocket science or something that you would probably just sit and off the top of your head, it's a pricing formula. So if there are reasons why Ghanaians are paying 6.8, and there's a way to bring it to 6.5, or there's a way to localize your interventions. Tema Oil Refinery, what is the strategy? A new year has begun. Is it just going to sit idle, a white elephant, and we continue to pay for tall debt? They continue to accumulate debt, and that debt will have to be paid by Imoro, myself, you, and everybody.
Yeah.
Or we are going to have a productive use for the refinery. Do we have a strategy for bust? Are we going to be able to make bust? Also take stock such that when prices skyrocket, there will be something to fall back on. Are we going to be able to look at the taxes? The finance ministry, we demand they should speak to some of these things. Thank you, Aisha.
Right. Peter Takpe, let me give you 1 minute to wrap it up for me. In the short, medium to long term, what should happen in terms of policy direction?
So far as the sector has been deregulated, the issue now lies between government and then the OMCs.
Okay.
And as a result, government needs to look at its policy in the pricing regime at the pumps.
Okay.
The only way out for government is to cut down the taxes, because where price market, government does not have any power there. The currency depreciation, at some point, yes, government will have. What government can do going forward as part of helping to mitigate the issue is that they should make provision, special provision for all oil importers, such that they will not come to the market to be buying dollars, where Bank of Ghana will give them dollars at a certain rate, so that it will also help to reduce the rate conversion component in the pricing of the fuel at the pumps. Then it will also help to mitigate the high costs by the taxes that they will be reduced at some point, since they don't have control over the world market. I think that when they do this, it will also help. Then government should look at TOR. What should we do for TOR going forward?
To revive TOR. I'm grateful for your time. Peter Takpe is a policy analyst. Duncan Amoah, thank you so much. He's Executive Secretary of Chamber of Petroleum Consumers. Abbas Ibrahim Moro, a spokesperson for the Coalition of Commercial Transport Owners, and Mohammed Abdul Kudus is Communications Manager, National Petroleum Authority. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Enjoy the rest of our programs.